Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about the fact that there is no such thing as a best accessory exercise. Unless it's maybe good mornings. You guys know I push good mornings pretty hard and have for a long time. But, people will always say things like, what is the best accessory for this lift? And it's like, well, it depends. It depends on the lifter, it depends on their weak links. And we also have to rotate accessories to avoid stagnating and avoid overuse. Then the other question we come into is, does your accessory lift need supplemental work? Right? In other words, let's say that your bench press, you have decided that the lockout is the weak link and the closed grip bench press will help. People say, well, why? How's the closed grip bench help? Well, number one, more tricep activation through a longer range of motion. It teaches you to accelerate longer with the triceps, usually gives you more tricep development, and it works the chest with more contraction at the top. Okay? That same part of the chest, some of those fibers can sometimes also be associated with the lockout of your pecs. So you might say, okay, well, hey, great. Closed grip bench is good for this, helping with the lockout. Yeah, but it's not the only tool. And we also look at, well, what happens if the closed grip bench press stalls? Well, you're going to need to do some supplemental work for the closed grip bench. You might need to be doing extra tricep work. You might need J-arm presses. You might need extensions in order to fully develop the triceps, to keep them pushing that closed grip bench forward, because if the closed grip bench as an accessory isn't going up, then it's not improving your bench anymore, even if it's a good accessory. But there's other lifts that can do the same thing. You could do pin presses, we could do board presses, you could do presses against, heavy chains. There's a lot of other options there. What about the bottom of the bench? Let's say your pecs are absolutely limiting you off the bottom of the bench. Well, where are you missing at the bottom? Because we could argue about pin presses or floor presses, depending upon where you miss. You miss 2 inches off the chest, though. Okay, well, we need more pecs. Well, what's the best accessory? I mean, we could say illegal wide benching is pretty high on that list, but you can't do it very long, can you? We can't do illegal wide benching for very long. It works phenomenally well, though. But how long are you going to do it? 2 or 3 weeks? Well, then what are you going to replace it with? And what if your shoulders can't handle illegal wide benching? Well, it's not an option. How about anything that just stretches your pec deeper at the bottom? How about dips, if your shoulders can handle them? How about dumbbells? How about decline dumbbell presses? Right? These are all really good options for this situation. But what about if it's not primary movers? What if it's support musculature? What if you're struggling to get tight on the bench and you can't drive out of the bottom correctly? Your upper back's not tight enough. Well, the upper back exercises are limitless. We could do snatch grip rows. We could do snatch grip high pulls. Right? All sorts of things we can do. Just rows in general. Get really good at rows in general. Your upper back will come up. You can make a case for smaller movements like certain types of laterals. Lateral raises, rear delt flies. We could even argue shrugs, right? They might all improve your bench in this case. We're working the same muscles, though. Similar muscles, not entirely the same. We're working that region. And we could look at it from the perspective of, let's say you're looking at the squat. I mean, there's a ton of squat accessories. Without even getting into the low back component, because again, low back can be a limiting factor. Of course, you guys see me up there in the background doing something specifically to help with that. Right? Those deep safety bar good mornings off slings. But that's not the only low back exercise. Romanian deadlifts, hyperextensions, reverse hyperextensions. All sorts of stuff we can do for the low back. They will all address a low back weak link on the squat. But what about if we're looking at the primary movers? What are the primary movers? Glutes, adductors, quads. Well, how much do we need of each one? What's the best accessory for a lifter? I don't know. What ratios do we need? Right, we could look at a lot of single leg exercises or Romanian deadlift. Romanian deadlift will work all those muscles very effectively with less stress and fatigue than a back squat will, and it'll give us a little more even loading per side. If there's a little bit of muscle imbalance, it can help in some cases. All right, we've got all that. But what about if our ratios need to be different? And we could do step-ups. And you know what? The height of our step-up will affect how much adductor versus glute we work. What if we realize that out of those primary movers, we're not even limited by the quads? Now, people will usually say, well, if your quads get bigger, your squat will usually get bigger. Yeah, that's often true. I'm not disagreeing with that point. But what if your adductors and glutes themselves are lagging behind your quads? Romanian deadlifts, right? That works pretty well for that, in addition to giving us some good hamstring stretch. We've got a lot of options. There's no best accessories. And I just gave you guys very limited numbers of ones. Well, what about deadlifting? My God, everything is a deadlift accessory. Deadlift uses 2/3 of the muscle in the body. Now, which stuff is most likely to help? Things that train the low back, things that train the hamstrings. Glutes if you have a lockout problem. But what about if your lockout problem, you have two different types? Are you pulling with thoracic extension a little bit, or with thoracic rounding? If you're pulling with thoracic rounding and you can't lock it, your upper back is weak. If you aren't pulling with a rounded back, like a rounded T-spine, and you struggle with the lockout, your glutes are weak. What are the best accessories for those? There's a limitless number of upper back ones, all safety bar work, different types of good mornings, front squats, right? Seated good mornings. What about glutes? Everything's a glute exercise that we listed. You could do glute bridges specifically, or hip thrusts. I don't like hip thrusts. I think glute bridges are better. But even then, what if your glutes are not the biggest limit? You know, if you just could do more well-rounded lower body training and your glutes will get hit, a lot of those squat accessories will hit the glutes. So will your deep box work. Okay. What if you're weaker near the bottom? What if you're weak real early on the deadlift? You probably need a lot more low back. You might need more quad. But what part of the quad? Rectus femoris is more involved? Well, it hits that. Those split squats. Arguably Romanian deadlifts. Deficit deadlifts. Well, which one is the best? There isn't. And you're going to need to rotate them anyways to avoid overuse and to keep progressing. Right? If you want to get some novel training response and additional hypertrophy, you're going to want to rotate them every few weeks. In other words, there is no best accessory. They're only what's a really good tool for the job, and how long can I use it before I need to rotate it for another really good tool for the job? Do I need to stack multiple tools in? Is it severe enough that I need multiple exercises? Might be. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.